Hi. I know I promised a Love Never Dies analysis. It's coming. It's in the works. I'm like 10 minutes into analyzing the movie, and that's about all I've got so far. I have assignments due. I don't have enough time for all of this, but I am working on it. Trust me, I'm working on it. Like, it will come. You will just have to wait a bit, unfortunately. Which I feel like you'd be okay with, because you did kind of get bombed with like 3 different musical videos in the past month, so like, sorry. Some news and updates. Next month, June's upload schedule is going to be a little different. I will hopefully have enough time to film a little May sewing video so you can get the little look at all the things I made. But after that, first weekend of June, my family and I are going to for a trip. I'm not going to say where because this video comes out before we go, and I would not like to be hounded there. So I'm not going to say until the videos come out. So first week of June, you'll get the first Monday of June, you'll get the May sewing video. Subsequent Mondays will be vlogs of my family and my trip, which I hope will be fun. I don't really vlog much, but I hope I will be able to do really well and have the confidence to pick up the camera all the time. I mean, I will be anyway to take pictures, so why not take some clips as well? But yeah, because we're going to go on a trip, I thought it'd be really cool to take you guys along and make that my June video sequence, which is just vlog of my trip, you know? So look forward to that. You'll get to see things we see. You'll get to see Zoe, the dog. You all love Zoe. You'll get to see different things I'm wearing. I will give you like a list of the things I'm doing that day, show the things I've done, and then a little recap of the day at the end, which I hope you'll all enjoy. Yeah. So keep your eye out for that next month. I look forward to it, and yeah. With that being said, roll the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 review. I watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 earlier this month, and it was a wonderful movie. I thought I would review it because I really enjoyed it, so beware. Spoilers past this point. I recommend watching the movie before you proceed. For background, I was introduced to the Guardians franchise way back in 2015 when my year level coordinator, who I had become friends with over our mutual love for all things science fiction, loaned me the DVD for the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. After watching it, I really liked how they handled space. At the time, I knew nothing about the MCU, being someone who grew up watching the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, Smallville, and the original Fantastic Four movies. I knew nothing about the gravity of the Power Stone, but I enjoyed the movie nonetheless. Groot and Rocket were cool, and Quill was funny. Over time, my family and I became quite interested in the story around the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's probably our favorite movie series of the MCU. Sorry, Bucky. We were very excited to watch the third movie. From now on, we will have spoilers because I'm going to talk about the movie. And for this review, I'm going to focus on the 3 main story arcs and the side arc of Quill and Gamora. The first story arc, probably the focus of the movie because everything else kind of revolved around it, is the story of Rocket. It's in this movie that we get to see his origin story. We learn that he's an experiment, a subject of genetic modification, which we got a hint of in the first Guardians movie, hearing his name is 89P13 during his intake at the prison, as well as a little biography of him being a genetic experiment. This movie delves deeper into that through flashbacks as Rocket struggles to live after being attacked at the Guardians HQ on Nowhere. The main plot of the movie is to find the codes to turn off Rocket's kill switch, which was a device on his heart set to kill him if someone tried to operate on him. It's through this plot that we learn about Rocket's terrible beginnings growing up in Batch 89 with a modified otter, walrus, and rabbit. We watch in the flashbacks as the 4 of them grow closer and find names for themselves when they are finally able to reach the New World. That's where Rocket chose his name. The otter becomes Lila, the walrus Teefs, and the rabbit Floor. That scene is actually adorable and made me smile. Later on, we reach the point where Rocket finds out Batch 89 aren't going to the New World. Instead, they're all going to be incinerated because they were experiments to lead into the next great batch of human-animal hybrids. They were supposed to be really evolved. When Rocket returns to the batch, he works to break them out so they can escape. Unfortunately, Rocket is the only survivor of that attempt, and we get a heartbreaking scene with Lila being happy to see Sky finally, which was really just light. Rocket was the smartest of the batch. He knew all about the engineering of the pods growing in these evolved animals, and he managed to replicate a keycard to open the cages he was trapped in. He was also the favorite of the High Evolutionary, the leader who was trying to create the perfect race. More on him later. Being allowed to see the New World being built and getting clued in on the hybrid experiments. A favorite scene of mine was when Rocket was almost dead, and he found himself in a whited out version of the cages he grew up in. In the distance, he saw Lila, who was happy to see him again. He asked to go with her and the others into the beyond, which Lila agreed to, leading the audience to think we're going to lose Rocket, only for her to pull back and tell Rocket it isn't his time yet, that his story isn't finished in the land of the living. It was such a bittersweet scene, because in the living world, everyone is worrying that Rocket was going to leave them, and in Rocket's mind, he's reunited with the family he grew up with and the family that he never got to save. And though we believe we're losing Rocket, we get assured he's not finished yet. Another favourite scene comes near the end of the film, when Rocket is helping to evacuate the big pyramid ship that the High Evolutionary is steering. He's run to help rescue the animals with a lower IQ than agreed, then he comes across a cage with a whole set of baby raccoons. As he opens the cage and looks into the terrified eyes of these babies, he sees the label on the door, stating the species inside the cage is raccoon. And finally, Rocket sees that he's been a raccoon all this time. It's character development, accepting himself for who he is, because this whole time he's just been 89P13. Rocket, an experiment, a monster. Finally, he knows what he is, who he is. He's Rocket Raccoon, and that's amazing. The next storyline ties into Rocket's, and it's the High Evolutionary story. He's a mastermind of sorts who's also a little crazy. He's made several different races and species, trying to create the perfect being in all the universe. A species you may recognize is the Sovereign, the golden people who were in the second movie. Also in the second movie credit scene, we found the High Priestess working on making a new form, who she called Adam, who starts off as being an antagonist in this movie. Turns out he's only about half done, and despite being really strong and powerful, he's not the brightest. Back to the High Evolutionary. He made Batch 89 trying to perfect animal evolution. This batch started off as just these animals with cybernetic implants, like Rocket's little metal circles on his chest and Lila's metal arms. This batch also most likely was subject to lobotomies, as seen when Rocket is returned to the cage with a clear surgical scar on his head. The poor thing's first word was hurts. That's sad. The High Evolutionary is terrible. He is probably one of the worst antagonists I have seen because he seems the most human. That may sound odd, but if you think about it, a lot of crazy humans are called crazy because there's something in their heads convincing them the world isn't good. There was that doctor in World War II who experimented with the prisoners because he didn't see them as human. The High Evolutionary kept experimenting with different species, trying to make the perfect one, and usually discarded anyone who failed. He blew up the planet with the evolved animals because he was finished with them. When Rocket escaped from the cage, and after the High Evolutionary killed Lila, Rocket tore up the High Evolutionary's face, leaving him wearing this stretched out, gross-looking mask afterwards. When the Guardians finally managed to stop the High Evolutionary, finding out about the mask, he begs Rocket to kill him. Rocket says no, and the others decide to let him suffer on his own. The ship was going to blow up anyway. Our last story is the story of the Guardians of the Galaxy. We were told before the movie release date was announced that this would be the last film we'd see these Guardians in, so I went in expecting them all to die or something, and the movie sure led us to believe that sometimes. The Guardians have made their base on nowhere, happily living life and fixing things up around the place. It's nice, it's pleasant. Then Adam Warlock comes in and almost kills everyone. Groot got reduced to just a head, Rocket almost died, Drax was even overpowered. That starts the whole plot of the movie. Throughout the film, we see the team working together, helping each other, making their usual plans, and fighting the bad guys. They did get split up a couple times, but they managed to find each other again, which was wonderful. Come the end of the movie, when everything is wrapping up, it's time for the team to wind down and have some fun. Nope. Mantis decided it's time for her to find herself because she's been told who she was all her life. Quill decided to go looking for his grandfather, who may or may not still be alive. Nebula and Drax became the leaders of Nowhere, and Gamora wanted to go back to the Ravagers, her new family. This leaves Rocket and Groot to lead the new Guardians of the Galaxy. It's sad to see the team break up, but in a way, at least they didn't get killed off, and maybe we'll get to see them again sometime. On a sweet side note, it was revealed a week or so after I watched the movie that James Gunn explained why Groot says, "I love you guys," instead of "I am Groot." He says it's because, through our time watching the movies, we've come to understand Groot. Now we know what he's saying because we can understand him. That made me feel really good, but in that sort of way that makes you cry happy tears. At least Groot and Rocket are still in the Guardians of the Galaxy, so we'll get to see him next time. And Groot got big. This side story is Quill and Gamora. If you watched Avengers Endgame, you'll know that the Gamora we knew is long gone, thrown off the cliff at Vormir. The Gamora on the screen is the Gamora from 2014, before she got into that prison brought to the future with Thanos after they switched out Nebula's body. Quill knows this, but he wants his Gamora back, the woman he loves. Throughout this movie, once Nebula brings Gamora into the plan, Quill is constantly trying to make Gamora love him again, but she doesn't love him that way. She's a different person to the Gamora he knew, which is heartbreaking in a way. When he finally decides to let her go, it's a nice scene, because we see that he's going to try to move forward from past experiences, letting Gamora go and reconciling with his grandfather. It was nice to see Gamora happy with the Ravagers at the end of the movie. The final scene of the movie, when Rocket finally changes the playlist to the 2000s, playing Florence and the Machine's Dog Days Are Over, is a wonderfully poignant scene. Everybody's getting ready to part ways, with Peter making his way back to Missouri, Mantis leaving with her new friends, and Drax and Nebula working on getting Nowhere back to normal. We see Rocket sitting on the curb listening to the song as he watches the world change, with Groot working on his own thing. It's when Groot pulls Rocket into dancing that the scene gets good. Soon enough, everyone on Nowhere is dancing, and our Guardians let out hoots of joy, letting out their emotion to the song. I love that scene. Though I watched it through tears, I loved it. Just seeing everyone finally let go of their stresses and being happy, embracing the music and moving on, it was really nice. Overall, I really liked this movie. I think it was a good ending to the story of these Guardians, and a nice opening to the new ones. I liked that we got to learn more about Rocket, and I liked the growth of the characters by the end. I did not like the place they went to where everything was made of organic matter. That made me uncomfortable in the "I'm not sure if I'm going to throw up" sort of way. I urge you to go and rewatch this movie, because I promise you it is good. I want to go and rewatch it. I loved the movie, and I want a pop figure of Baby Rocket now to go next to the pop figure of Baby Groot that's up there, because wouldn't that be cute?